Somewhere in this rebuild, I have made a mistake. Let's find it. Let's start with installing the engine back into the frame. I offer the engine up and install the first bolt at the bottom. This way I can pivot the engine up towards the frame and everything just lines in nice and easy. Make sure you've got all wires and cables all out of the way. You do not want to pinch them. Once I know everything's all correct, I'll be going around talking things up to specification and making sure the swing arm is adjusted correctly. At this point, it's note that you don't tighten all the bolts down fully at the moment. You tighten it all down once all the bolts are in all together. So the next job on the list is to install the oil pump. Ensure the drive on the oil pump is correctly aligned with the gear inside. You won't be able to twist the oil pump that much to align it otherwise. It's recommended that you install the two bolts with a non-lock-in thread lock. It's always good practice to change the oil seals before installation. The bottom bolt's always the trickiest one because you've got the tension from the quadrant spring holding it, fighting you all the way while you're trying to do the bolt up. It's a good idea to get everything all torqued down. You think you'll find that everything should be around 10 to 11 Newton meters for all this kind of hardware on the engine. I wasn't happy with the way the quadrant was moving and discovered that somebody had taken all the quadrant to bits and put the spring in the wrong place. Now, I didn't want to take the quadrant off, so I found a cable tie, looped it around the spring, and I managed to guide it around to the correct peg. And that way I had a proper movement and snap back on the oil pump again. This is one of the most important things on the job, is to make sure you got a 100% guaranteed working oil delivery system. This is what keeps your engine alive. Any air in the system now means that your engine will fail on you, and you don't want that. Simply undo the screw, let all the air out, you'll see oil trickling out of it, and just wait until probably about another 30-40 seconds, close the screw, then that's the job done. You know you've got oil in the pump and it's primed. Clutch cable next. Ensure both ends are not connected to anything, so if it's connected to the lever, remove it. You'll need this extra bit of free play to get it over the actuator. Once you've inserted a cable, it should automatically almost guide into location, and then once it's near enough, you just push it over onto the actuator itself and that's job done. If you can't get the cable on, it's too tight, you need to take the preload off the actual clutch basket itself. You probably will need the special tool to loosen and tighten up the nut again after. Then it's just a matter of case of putting the cable into the actual clutch lever itself. Once you've done that, take the preload back off the clutch and adjust it to 1.5mm of free play on the clutch lever itself. It's recommended between 1 and 1.5mm. Before we go putting oil in the engine, ensure you've got the sump plug installed. Ensure it's got a nice crust washer back onto it as well. For the gearbox, I'm using 7590. That meets the specifics in the manual, and I'm going to be putting about 600 cc's into it. It's a good idea to fill it slowly, otherwise it would just cause airlocks inside the actual bottle and make it harder. Ensure you've got the correct amount of oil in it. You don't want too little or too much. Too little will cook the bearings. Power valve goes into the bevel facing the exhaust port exactly as Rotax specify. Get that upside down and you'll probably most likely catch the rings as the piston will go past the port, which is usually game over for the top end again. I cycle it by hand before I even close it up, just to make sure it all moves freely through its full travel. It is also equally important that this power valve is spaced correctly. As it's an entire kit 140cc, you will need the correct spacer in between the power valve and the gaskets. I couldn't find mine at the time of this installation, so I spaced it using some extra gaskets. This is only temporary. I do have the spacer now and it will be installed. I'm installing these red silicone hoses as they are the ones what came with the bike. But I did upgrade the Jubilee clips to a nice strong set from PJME. Seem to be quite robust. Need to go through every single one, making sure they're just tight enough but not too tight. You don't want to over tighten these thin aluminium wall cases. At the same time, you don't want the pipes to be chafing anywhere. These pipes come extra long, so you have to be careful to cut them down to the right size. I must admit, these silicone hoses do make the engine bay look a bit blingy, don't they? What do you think? Leave a comment, see what you think. Up to this point, I still don't know if there's a problem. I'm filling up the cooling system with an organic Motul antifreeze. I try to do it nice and slowly and making sure all of the air is out of the system. As you can see, I don't have the standard bleed on top of the cylinder there. That is an additional temperature gauge that I installed because the plastic one had rotted through, and I thought it would make a nice addition. There's a screw on top of the radiator and that will need to be removed so all the air will come out of the radiator. Close it up, then you fill the system back up with coolant. Once you see the coolant coming out of the radiator or this T-piece, you close these up, then just top it up after. And this is where that dreaded drip of death happens. A little shimmer at the base of the gasket, then a drip, and another. From this angle, it looks like it's coming from the base gasket area. Well, I do certainly hope so anyway, but it could just as easily be tracking from higher up. Either way, I've got a coolant leak on a fresh build. Seriously not happy. At this point, I've gone too far in and I'm not draining it at the moment, just in case it's just a little bit of coolant that I may have stripped. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. So I progress on and I'm installing the starter motor. As all things with this kind of hardware, it is set to 10 to 11 Newton meters, and it's recommended to have some retaining compound on there. You want a non-locking one on there. I've seen so many of these Rotax 122 engines with snap bolts. That's because people haven't taken the time and consideration of heating anything up before even touching these. If you find that it is stuck, don't carry on, get someone else to do it who knows how to. So I'm only installing this exhaust temporarily now. I'm not even installing the exhaust springs. I'm not going anywhere. I see it's still leaking. I can't see where it's leaking from, and I'm going to be waiting for a new pressure tester because my one's broken. So I'll carry on, connect it up, and hopefully we'll get some life into this engine. But that'll be for another episode. I'm joking. Let's see how it goes, shall we? The engine has been run 3-4 times maybe, and every time I've run it, I've kept to the warm-up procedure that Rotax and Aprilia are underlined. Gentle idling and no big throttle pulls, keeping an eye on the electrical temperature as it heats up. At this point, the bike is fully up to temperature and the leak is starting to show even more. It looks like it could be from the base gasket, but equally could be the crankcase gasket. The coolant level in expansion tank looks stable, so it is only a small leak when it's not an instant pump. I've placed the bucket underneath the engine itself and it's collected probably about 50 mils of coolant already in about 10 minutes. So it's quite a moderate leak. It looks like it is leaking around the base of the gasket and could be the actual crankcase gasket itself. I think I'm going to have to empty the coolant out and do a full leak down of the cooling system. So that means putting a small amount of air into the actual cooling system and spraying it with some kind of soapy water to see bubbles. I'm really praying it's just the base gasket. That way I'm not going to have to take the engine out. If it is, I'll have to strip the whole engine out and put a new gasket in it. However, it is good news that the engine sounds absolutely gorgeous. I'm so happy with the engine sound. There's no knocks, no rattles, just this coolant issue to be solved. In the next episode we'll be investigating further and seeing what the issue is. Could it be a base gasket, a paste joint, or something even stranger? If you have something similar on a fresh build, put your theories down in the comments and we'll see who's the closest when I've got it on the bench. Thank you for your time, and if you haven't already, please subscribe.